big poppin'. Money in the bank, coming, dropping a deposit. Having it my way, so I got these bitches watching. Steady getting to it, couldn't fit it in my pocket. Flexing everything, baby, tell me big poppin'. Money in the bank, coming, dropping a deposit. Having it my way, so I got these bitches watching. Steady getting to it, couldn't fit it in my pocket. Flexing everything, baby, tell me what the topic.
What's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to the bar. And tonight we have a special guest with us. Now, if you've been paying attention since yesterday, then you know that I spoke to you guys about someone named Francyna Evins. And Francyna is the ex-girlfriend of Clayton Howard. You know who he is. He is the longtime Diddy escort that has been on a press run, and he's been on every blog talking about that situationship that he was in. But as I explained to you guys in previous videos, there's a whole nother side that is going on where we're talking about 26 legal cases with an ex. A lot of information spanning over 3 years. Tonight, I'm going to be bringing to you Francyna Evins and her lawyer, Miss Cynthia Hardaway, Esquire. So I'm going to bring them up to the stage. You guys go ahead and you welcome them in. How are you ladies doing this evening? Thank you for being here.
We're doing fine. Thank you for having us.
Good evening. Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it and excited to be here.
You're very welcome. Now, we did talk a little bit behind the scenes, so I just want to let you guys know, please, if there are any comments that you guys are making, of course, you guys are free to say what you want to say in the comments, but those comments may not make it up here to the actual platform, as we're going to keep this as respectful as possible. There are still litigations that are going on right now as we speak. And this is not to cause harm to any of those cases that are going on, but to inform everybody from misinformation, from anything. The record is going to be set straight for you guys. But if you have questions, feel free to ask them down in the question, and I'll put them up on the screen and ask them for you. So, Francyna, I had the pleasure of speaking with you, and I know that there are a lot of things that you would like to get squared away. But I think, Miss Hardaway, I would like for you to begin, actually, because there's a timeline of events that people are interested in. You both can chime in on it. But when I've looked at this, is it 26 or is it 27 cases?
26.
So there's different jurisdictions here. I'm only in New Jersey.
Okay.
I think that Miss Evans is doing the total of both New York and New Jersey. I believe, or you can ask her. So I can only speak on what's done in New Jersey because I have not been assisting her in New York at all.
Okay. So in total, how many cases? It's 26.
So there are 26 cases that have been filed to date. And, right now there's just, there is one open case that's criminal, potentially, because it's like a contempt charge to the restraining order. Okay. And then there's also a pending civil lawsuit that we're looking to conclude next month. And then there's also the ongoing restraining order, the second restraining order in New York that is going over to 2026. So, although that is the total number, there are 3 cases currently in litigation.
Wow. Have you ever heard of anything like this before, Miss Hardaway?
No. And this is partly why I'm here. This is not anything that I normally do. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important because for people to understand how this all started. Because it's gotten far afield. This was something that began in 2022. We're now in 2025, and it's still going.
Right.
So briefly, this started out about a relationship and a dog in a breakup. Doesn't matter who broke up with whom, but there was a dog at issue, and one party thought that the dog was theirs. The other one thought that the dog was theirs. So usually when you have things like issues like this, you go to civil court, you bring your proofs, and the judge decides who gets the dog. I'm sure you've seen this on some of those shows on television, Judge Judy or whatever.
Right.
So it's a civil case. It's not criminal in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened here was that Mr. Clayton Howard, who is the person who is associated with the Cassie thing, that's how this all came to your attention,
right?
Filed a restraining order in New Jersey, alleging that my client, the major allegations, broke into his house and stole his dog. He also, at the same time, filed criminal charges, alleging the same thing.
Okay.
So now Ms. Evins is dealing with criminal charges, which is happening in a different forum. It's happening in criminal court.
Right.
And restraining order violation. I mean, well, DV is what domestic violence. That's occurring somewhere else in family court. These courts are not connected. So one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's different somewhere else, but that's how it is in New Jersey.
Okay.
It's not a collective effort with the judiciary, especially if we're in different areas. There's civil, there's criminal, but you understand what I'm saying.
Right. I get what you're saying. They don't commune with one another.
No. So now this is the important part. The restraining order part had to go on. It was not stayed until Ms. Evins could handle the criminal part.
Okay.
They had a trial, Mr. Howard and Ms. Evins, in the domestic violence court, the family court.
Okay.
Neither one of them, from my understanding, at this crucial point, were represented by counsel. Everybody was pro se.
Okay.
So this is what's happened. It happened, and I read this, so I'm not just making this up. I wasn't there, but I read this in the transcripts. Or I actually had not the transcripts, the audio. I listened to the audio. The judge there advised my client, Miss Evins, you have criminal charges pending. I would advise you not to talk about the criminal charges here, because whatever you say here could be used against you. Okay. And this is invoking the Fifth Amendment. You know how they say, I plead the Fifth, I plead the Fifth. Right. Because in the criminal case, if you say something, the prosecutors can use it against you if it incriminates you. So people plead the Fifth and I'm not going to talk about it because I have a criminal case pending and I don't want to, jeopardize that. Right. So this is what the family judge says to her. So of course she not really understanding how any of this works, because this is not her thing. She's not involved in any illegalities, domestic violence. This is a first for her. Right. So she's like, okay, well, I probably shouldn't talk about the criminal case. But the criminal case is the basis for the restraining order. So if you don't talk about the criminal case,
then they don't know about it.
Exactly. But he's over here talking about these things because he doesn't have a criminal charge filed against him. She does. And the kicker is, this is the important part. If you do not talk about the case, the judge can draw what's called an adverse inference. Okay. And hold it against you that you didn't talk about the case. Wow. This is what this right here is what went on. She was advised to not talk about the case because of the criminal proceeding. Right. But her failure to talk about the case was also held against her when the judge decided the restraining order. So as a result, a final restraining order issues against Miss Evins. It is a lifetime in New Jersey. It's a lifetime thing. You can't just come in and just say, oh, 2 years is up, 3 years is up. We're done. It's a lifetime thing. Right. And that's something that when I heard that, I'm like, wait a minute. That's what happens in New York. Because I know in New York, they give you like a 90-day restraining order, and then you either go back or the DA decides on their own to extend it for however much time they so choose. So when I heard that in New Jersey, it's lifetime, I was like, wait a minute. So you get restricted for the rest of your life? Unless there's some caveats. If the two people get together and they say, okay, we're cool now, let's go in there and we'll lift it. That's not going to happen here. Right. And then you can go in, the person who has the restraining order against them can go in and do a motion to have it vacated. But there's standards. It's not an easy thing. Hey, I'm here. Can you vacate this? There's certain prongs that the person has to meet. It's not easy. Okay. So this final restraining order is in place, and now the criminal part is addressed. She's acquitted on the criminal part, found not guilty of breaking into anyone's house, not guilty of stealing a dog. So but you would think, restraining order You would
Should have
think
been
you
dropped.
could go back and say, hey, judge, restraining order judge,
Right.
I got found not guilty for these things over here. Can you please lift this? Not the way it works. So now she's free of the criminal charges, and she had to go through all of that. And I represented her on the criminal part. So I know
Okay.
what she went through and everything. And
Right.
I know what evidence we had. And by the way, Mr. Howard, during our trial, also did some of the same things that he did to the young lady yesterday. He did some of the same things to me, but we were right in the middle of trial. And the judge had to actually take a break and let him calm himself down. So so I have the actual evidence that shows that when he says that Miss Evans was in New Jersey stealing a dog, she was actually in New York.
Wow. So let me ask you something, because this is a domestic violence restraining order, correct?
Correct.
So this is because it came out of family court, or how did that come into play? Because I know that there's narratives that are going on. So can we clear that part up, or is that not something?
Domestic violence complaint is just basically someone saying that the other party did something to them and putting them in fear of their life. So on a regular domestic violence, I mean, it sits within family court, but a regular claim, like say for instance, what he said was true. I mean, it's certainly within the realms of a domestic violence violation. If you break into somebody's house and take their things, that would put you into fear if it were true. So it doesn't necessarily have to be what we typically think of domestic violence, like some type of, physical
thing, right?
Attack.
Stalking, abuse, right.
It doesn't have to be that. It's just actions that put you in fear. But the problem with this one is because it wasn't any of that, and it was just a situation where somebody was saying that, alleging that somebody had broken into their house over a dog, not to harm him or anybody else in the house, but just to take a dog. It would seem to me, and this is just my opinion at this point, that the judiciary would have said, hey, okay, well, let's hold this, we leave this temporary in place, and then once we figure out what's happening with the trial, the criminal part, we'll address this restraining order, whether to dismiss it or make it final. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So now she's still stuck with this lifetime final restraining order, and is going to be stuck with it until such time she could file a successful motion to have it vacated.
Now, this restraining order, Francyna, how has this affected you? Because I don't want to tell your story based off of what I've heard. I want you to explain why it is imperative, besides the fact that nobody wants to have this type of a restraining order on their record at all. But can you explain the direct impact that it has had on you personally?
I mean, where do we start? I've been in custody 3 times. I've been arrested, fingerprinted, sexually harassed while in custody. I've had to move. There are a lot of things that are still happening to me. Like, I could get a call tonight and say, turn yourself in tomorrow because, this guy feels harassed. That could happen. And I've been living in fear. I'm like I've been in survival mode since 2022. Since he's, had this order. He got this order in June of 2022. And the theme has never changed. The years just changed, but it's still this like looking over your shoulder. What's going to happen? What detective is going to call you? Do you have to? I actually lost one of my jobs because I got fingerprinted. And I worked for this really high society school. And what happens when you work with kids? They send your fingerprints upstate. They send them to your job. My job was just like, what is going on? Because they didn't know about the situation. And they were like, listen, you got to go home for the rest of the week. And they didn't call me back ever after the season was over. So, it was a lesson like, this can't be my life. I want to move forward. And it's just nothing that I would wish on anyone.
Wow. That's I can only imagine. Not only are you looking over your shoulder for your freedom, but you're losing your job on top of all of that.
Yeah. The dirty looks, the shame. A lot of people from my city are afraid to even communicate with me now, because, of just, people, when people do things like this, they try to dismantle the arc of safety around you. That's kind of like a theme, recurring theme, the isolation, and it's nothing you can really combat.
Right.
You just got to move forward, right? What are you going to cry about?
Right.
So
let me ask you, out of the 26 cases, how many of them are yours versus how many of them are his, or is that something that you could speak on? Or
I don't know how she keeps up with any of it.
I have a few charts. I gotta update the charts.
I would have to rely on her because I know I've dealt with more than I care to remember. And the thing that, and I've been sued. He sent me emails. He sent something to the judiciary saying that he was going to press criminal charges against me. Then
wait, he sued you as well, Miss Hardaway?
He sent me an email asking me to accept some lawsuit. I believe that I'm told, and I believe it to be true. He sued me, Miss Evins, the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, the prosecutor who handled the criminal case, who he also spoke very badly about on social media. And she's supposed to be representing the state, who indirectly represents the victim.
It's him, right?
Right. So, in federal district court, there was a lawsuit filed. I believe at this time that it has been dismissed. I don't know if he's going to try to reinstate it, but he has filed this. I am currently representing Miss Evins on a matter that is before the court. And this is a matter where the allegations still stem from things from 2022,
things that were dismissed.
It's more like a some type of punitive thing he's looking for. So he wants to have her punished monetarily.
He wants her money, and he said listen. This is what I've watched. Okay, I have seen. I pulled the lawsuit against the DA. I've heard the threats against basically anybody that tries to help her. Anyone that sides with her, rules in her favor, there's a lawsuit that soon follows after. At what point does this actually become legal abuse? Just asking the question, not specifically towards him, but just asking in general, if something like this is going on with anyone, at what point does this become abuse of the legal system?
See, and this is where the judiciary fails a bit in my view. Anybody can file a lawsuit. Anybody can file a motion. You pay the fee, you file it, right? And if it gets filed and properly served upon you, you have to answer it. You can't just say, "Oh, this is some BS. I'm going to ignore it." It has to be answered. So if you have a person who wants to continually have some type of contact with you, and this is the only way that they can foresee themselves being able to do it, they can go in and file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. All of them may be bogus, but they're still going to be accepted. The person's still going to pay the filing fee, and the person who's being sued, if they're served properly, is still going to have to answer to that complaint, even just to say this is some BS. So it always has to be addressed one way or the other. And the person who is on the receiving end of the stick has to have their life, their time, their energy disrupted. And the judiciary doesn't seem to have a mechanism wherein they can put a stop to this. The only thing that the person who is receiving all this can do is to file another litigation. So that keeps you can't end it if you have to keep, continue, in Miss Evans' case, like I would normally tell my client, hey, don't go talking about this to anyone. Keep it, just wait until things are over. But when you have somebody else who's talking every day, still to this day, saying she abused his child when he was found guilty in court for making that up. He leaves that part out. And he's still saying to this day, and I saw the disposition sheet. So, I'm not up here just saying anything because I don't have my own self to protect.
Right.
You're still sitting here saying that she was criminally charged with stealing your dog when that's not the truth. She was found not guilty. But you have this restraining order. And as long as you have this restraining order, everything that you do can flow from it. And
Right.
the judiciary cannot and will not put anything in place to stop it. So out of a relationship, we all have, we make these bad decisions.
Uh-huh.
And now you figure you made
Unfortunately.
the bad decision. 3 months later, you cry it all out and you move on to the next bad decision.
Right.
She's stuck in
You
her
cried
bad
on out to a
decision.
charge.
You can't get out
I
of
got
her bad
charges 3
decision.
months later.
Not you cried it out to a charge.
It's not
I mean,
funny
it's
for
the
No,
laughing.
truth. It's
started
funny,
3
but it's the
charges.
truth.
3 charges.
Dang.
It's terrible. I don't even know what to do or say about this anymore.
Now, how does this keep going, if you can answer this, between New Jersey and New York? How does it keep? And I know one state doesn't interact with the other. If
They
they're
don't.
hardly even interacting with each other within the same jurisdiction, we know they're not talking outside the state. But how does this ping pong, especially when I know Francyna has said that she's brought the paperwork from the cases in Jersey to New York and the cases from New York to Jersey? So how is the my mind is boggled.
Only in New Jersey, and I'm assuming that this is happening in New York as well. So it could be wherever you are. So if you end up in, say, Carteret, which is a town in Middlesex, I believe. If you happen to be there at whatever particular time, and he wants to file, or she, I'm just keeping this general at this point, or she wants to file a claim, a complaint in Carteret, she or he can. And then you go over to like Newark, and something happens over there where the person happens to be there or whatever. You can file another complaint in Newark. And those are just the municipalities. New Jersey has different counties. So at one point, Miss Evins had stuff going on in Middlesex County and Essex County.
And the two counties are not communicating to know what's going on in the other. But when you bring your case from one county to the other, do they even acknowledge it? Like, because that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, they're not
bringing the same. I don't. In these situations, they don't bring the same case. It's a new thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. It's a new thing.
So he's not dragging the dog case. It's in my view, it's connected to that final restraining order. But if you get a final restraining order, a person can say, a person can lie and say this. There's a final restraining order. A person can go to where they live, the person who has the final restraining order, and say, so-and-so called me, the person that I have the final restraining order against, called me last night 50 times on the phone. Well, her number's up there, his number's up there. No, it's all from an unknown number, but I know that it's that person. Can go down and file the complaint in that town that they live in.
And that happened to me twice.
A total lie. I mean, I'm just giving you an example. This is a situation where I represented a male. I represented a male. The female said, filed the restraining order, said all this stuff, but there were text messages that she had saying that is exactly what she's going to do. And he had the text messages, but the police didn't say, okay, well, look, here's this evidence here. We're going to dismiss this because, my goodness, he got locked up. He lost his job.
Wow.
He had to go to court. He had to pay me, all for me to get up and say, look at these text messages.
Wow.
So imagine doing that not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, but as Miss Evans said, potentially 26 times. Wow. It's too much. It's too much.
It's too expensive. It's too much time.
It's just the energy alone. Never mind. Look, I wouldn't want to spend $2 on a situation where I knew I didn't do anything wrong.
Right. That's the
angst.
And it's like, if this all started with a dog and he's had the dog since 2022, what are we really here for? Because it was all about the dog to begin with, you know?
And they made her give the dog back. So
right. So at what point how do you find peace? I can't even say at what point, because I was going to say, at what point do you find peace? But how do you find peace for yourself in the midst of all of this? Because this has to be a lot on you mentally.
I train. I mean, I stay relentless. I don't know if you know anything about my work. I do work full time, but
Mhm.
I also work with seniors, and that brings me a lot of joy. I work with large groups, and we do like movement classes, dance classes. We do resistance training, but their energy, literally, like they always tell me, it's like therapeutic for them, but it's really vice versa. And just things like that, just movement in general, because I don't know if you're familiar. We spoke a little bit offline about DV and like past relationships and how they brought some trauma, but
Right.
trauma gets stored in the body, and if you
Right.
don't move, it really like defines your life, and I never want that to be the case for me. So I, in this storm that I'm in, I encourage others, I encourage other women, and I just, that's just what I'm about, and it helps me. So I'm just thankful that I've been running track my whole life to kind of prepare me for this. Because honestly, if I didn't run a 400-meter dash, I don't think I could even handle all this court. I don't. Anybody that knows track and field that's ran the 400 knows the training it takes. And this, honestly, we're going on 4 years of staying composed through this. I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah,
um,
continue to keep your composure. Now,
you
I
have
know
to.
you had, at one point in time, you have had a restraining order yourself, correct?
I do have one actually.
Okay. And is that in Jersey or is in that in New York?
It's in New York.
Okay. So, well, I don't know if you can talk about that, but you guys have restraining orders on each other.
Yeah, so I was the first one to get it because I know you shared you had got the information from King World's video where he was discussing about how the I was threatened to have like naked pictures of me that didn't exist,
Yes.
and that was how I got the
Hold on
restraining
one second.
order.
I just want to say shout out to King World and the Rabbit Hole. They
Yes,
are in here. So hey you guys, just want to take a moment to say hello because I've gotten information
and
from the both of
honestly,
them.
if it honestly weren't for King Rod, I probably wouldn't be here right now because he found my story through this guy's social. So I didn't come into this. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, let me attach to this. He made a video about me without even speaking to me. And I was
Right.
just like, man, I got a whole stranger advocated for me. And I was afraid to repost it at first. But you know what? You really got to look at God and see how, things can align. And that was really chilling because some of the stuff that he covered, a lot of judges are still these systems are still, they still have to comprehend, and hopefully they do sooner than later. But so when that was said about the naked pictures, the verbal harassment, that's how I got the order. And then he got one 2 days later. So that was his first one. And then it wasn't strong enough to repossess the dog. So he got the second one from New Jersey because New Jersey law says, oh, I can have access to your house, even though we didn't live together. So that is essentially why he had the order. But that's what stands. He has two, I have one. And it doesn't really seem like I have one,
Right.
but on paper I do. So,
Gotcha. So
yeah.
what does the end of this look like, Miss Hardaway? Do you see an end anytime soon?
The only way that this can ever end for New Jersey is for a judge to lift that final restraining order. Then it
And
ends.
what are the odds of that? Because it seems like he's going to fight that tooth and nail. I'm just making my own. This is my opinion, has nothing to do with anybody else. Seems like he's not going to let up on that. So,
And that's the unfortunate part. You can file these you don't have, you can file them repetitively, these
mhm,
motions, like let time go by, file another one, and you really have to convince the judge that that you have moved away from this person. And one of the prongs is, which makes this very difficult, and when I say prong, one of the things that you have to show is that the victim no longer fears you. So that requires the victim to have some input in it. And it makes sense from a perspective of a real
no
domestic
real kid,
violence
right?
case.
Hmm.
So that's why the laws were meant to protect real victims. And that's why they're so strenuous in New Jersey. I don't agree so much with the lifetime one, but
Right.
I understand the purpose or the mission behind having it, because New Jersey doesn't want these types of things to happen. But in this particular case,
right,
it's not
this is
being
over.
applied properly.
Yeah. Because I feel like there should be some type of stipulation to a lifetime. Like, okay, we've given, like, it just should be different. That's just how I see it. It should have been different because now it's like
If
her life being.
if the prosecutor, you know, when Mr. Howard went to the police station at the very beginning and said she stole my dog, she broke into my house. If the officers would have approached it in a way, well, you know, did she spend time in your house? Why would she steal your dog?
Right.
Talk to Miss Evins. Miss Evins would say, no, I didn't steal the dog. The dog's a gift. I never went in the house. And somebody with a you know, a different mindset would have said, send this to civil court. This doesn't even belong here. But, you know, Mr. Howard has a way initially. So I can imagine what he was saying and who he, you know, convinced about what he meant. But a prosecutor over there, and I'm not knocking the Essex County prosecutor's office, so nobody bother me about it. The prosecutor over there should have said, listen, this is not that.
Right.
Let them go over to civil small claims court and fight about this damn dog. Because when we were doing the criminal, when it was, they weren't laughing at it, Miss Evans, but people were like, a dog? Like that was everybody's consensus. Like, are we really doing this about a dog?
But there were 15 prosecutors in there, and that was a scary part to me. You know,
and if you listen to Mr. Howard's YouTube videos, if he hasn't taken them down, he talks about being in court with the prosecutor who handled this case on some type of restraining order. So you got to do a deep dive into those videos. I don't want to talk about it too much.
No, I got you.
I don't know this. I've never heard of a situation where a prosecutor has to seek legal relief because a victim who the state allegedly who supposedly represents is doing something to them to make them get a protective order. I never heard of it.
That's like hitting my head. Like,
you got to do. Listen to.
I am. Trust me, I'm going to, because it's just wow. And for me, when I saw the protective order and I'm looking and I'm like, is the dog really on there? Like, they're ordering her to return the dog on the order of protection, the same one that has, you know, him on it, his daughter on it, and you got the dog on. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are we talking about here? That's why I couldn't wait to speak to you, because I'm like, when she said last night, it's about a dog and the child, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, I'm never seen this before in my life. I don't think anybody's seen this before. You guys, if you have any questions for either Miss Hardaway or for Francyna, please feel free to ask them in the chat, but be respectful. Okay. Don't be funny, because I know how y'all feel. I'm looking at some of the comments. I see y'all.
Thankfully, I can't see any.
This has really been a lot from a legal standpoint. This has been overdrawn.
I can tell you, I've been practicing, probably approaching my 30th year. I'm dating myself, but it's fine. I've never seen such a thing in my life. I've never seen such a thing. And I just, you know, for someone like Miss Evins, and, you know, everybody knows her history, this is a person who has something going on. Like, right. You know what I mean? I've been a criminal defense attorney for a long, long time. A lot of people, you know, they don't have too much going on, and then, you know, get themselves into situations. She has so much going on that, you know, this, in my view, derailed many things that could have gone further.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't quantify it because, you know, how do we know what tomorrow will bring? But
right.
She's a chemist. She does the Olympic thing. She's got her business thing. And then we find out after, listen here, this is the only thing I'm going to say. This is the only thing I'm going to say, Miss Henny. This is the only thing I'm going to say. Then we find out that he's an escort. Then after all of this, Then we find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? When was I gonna find out?
So you never knew about any of this ahead of time. Like it was never a conversation at all.
Yeah, nah, he never shared that he was an escort with me. Never.
Okay, Mama Flip, you can ask your question. I can put it up on the screen if you want to ask your questions. Let me see. Did anybody? Nope, I'm not going to ask that. So, how was that? If you don't have to, if you don't want to, speaking on you, nothing else. How was that for you? That moment, finding that out, not who it was or what was connected. Just how was that moment for you finding out that this was a part of a past to someone that you thought you were close with and didn't know was going on?
It's like it's extremely humiliating. Because like at this point, um, my name is already attached to this individual. Like my Google footprint was already attached since
Yeah.
2023. So it's like that's already been a concern of mine. And then I have my friend, a couple of my friends call me. They're like, "Oh, did you see this on TikTok?" And I wasn't even on TikTok like that. And I was like, "Oh, snap." And it just was a lot. And especially now that it has been affecting my New York family court dates. That was a bit disturbing because I'm now using paid time off days to go to court, and I get to court and now he's a potential witness in the Diddy case and he's not. But those are still 2 days that I could have been using for vacation, but I had to miss them. So these are the kind of things that are like very inconvenient, but you can't really control because if you don't go, you get a warrant. So, that was kind of the shock of learning. It is very disappointing because you see somebody, doing what they're doing to you in a larger scale, monetizing off of somebody's name. That theme seems to be recurring, and it's just really disheartening that you can spend time with someone and they can't be honest with you. I would never deal with anybody knowing that information, but he didn't really give me that opportunity, so I didn't really have much control there.
That's true. So, what does the other side of this look like for you, Francyna? Like litigations, like what is all of this being done, situated? What does that look like?
Maybe dabbling with motherhood one day. Like it's been a goal of mine. I'm watching all the girls I ran track with, and honestly makes me really sad. Like I see all my friends, they're starting their lives, they're getting married, having kids in their careers, and I'm just like, I'm just still trying to legalize this breakup. So for me, I do want to see it, but I don't.
Explain that.
You know?
Explain legally breaking up, because you said it last night, but I really love that right there, legally breaking up.
So we were in court. We were in New York Family Court December 18th to 24, and we were both asked to dismantle the order and we can go out about our lives, because the way that New York does it is not like Jersey. What they do is every 6 months they give you like 3 dates. Every 6 months they give you 3 more dates and 3 more days. So the amount of petitions that we have against each other, because if he violates or if you know he says that I violated the order of protection, I'm always going to counter, you know? And we have a lot of petitions in family court and we're still on trial. So he hasn't even testified yet. But we were given the opportunity to end it in December. And I said, Your Honor, I said, I would be willing to end it. And before I could even finish that statement, him and his attorney banged on the table and said, absolutely not. And that same venom was there in July. And I'm just like, Your Honor, and the judges is like, I don't know if both parties are ready, but I'm trying to see because it's going to go on for a really long time. And he just doesn't want to end it. There is no DV. He has the dog. So what is there really to fight for? And I just feel like it's just an opportunity for him to see me. And I don't even know how to articulate that anymore. But yeah, I still feel like it's just the remnants. He's just trying to have this connection, and I can't move forward psychologically because I still have to go to court every
Right.
6 months at a minimum.
So Xavier says, are you afraid to find a true love relationship?
I don't even want to cry right now. My trust has been a little damaged, but I know all people aren't like this. You know, I can't hold it against the next person, but I just want to make sure that this chapter is closed before, you know, I advance. And I also don't want to kill too much time because I know time is a gift, right? I believe that. It's the coin of our lives. And, you know, I really treat it as such. And that's why it really means so much to me to end this. But it's both parties have to agree. It's not just me. I
Right.
can't just want this and, like, you know, it's not my world. It's party's world.
Gotcha. Afaya says, you're beautiful, sis. Heal, move on, live your life. Don't let this person, because I'm not going to say that. I told you, um, block you from meeting the right person. I understand where you're coming from with not wanting to explore that right now. That is a lot to bring. It's kind of like you want to drop that baggage before you move on, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like what he wants. So if he's probably watching this right now, he's probably like, yeah, you know, but you know, I do date. So, you know, life hasn't stopped. But you know, I just want to end this chapter as soon as I can. That's just those have been my sentiments since 2022.
Queen Grandma Rocks asks, how are you, I guess, how are you protecting yourself besides the court order?
Looking over my shoulder. Um, you know, I do have two brothers, so I know I can call them at any time. I do have Mace, you know, because there's been a lot of threats out there.
Yeah, no, we're
Um,
gonna say that no more.
yeah. So, you know, and honestly, prayer, like I pray a lot. You know, I know God is covering me, although I'm in the lion's den. You really got to bring it back to the Bible because, you know, David did, you know, you like, you know, the story. I don't have to reiterate it to
Right.
really, you know, give the example, but you know, it doesn't rain forever. And I do believe that. And I feel like in the midst of this trial, I feel like if we have this platform right now, it's really just a testament to really trust God because when I tell you, you know, when before Cynthia was representing me, I had an attorney that I gave all of my money to.
Mm-hmm.
And I got arrested. And he said, if you call me again, I'm gonna block you. I just got out of the jail cell and I was calling him because I wanted advice, but I wasn't paying him for that case.
Right.
And then I was gifted Cynthia. And that right there was a godsend, you know, and you know, she's been representing me since 2023. So that right there is God. It's just like a sign there's angels all around this path. You know, it doesn't look how I didn't picture my life at 34 looking like this, but I know that God sends angels. You
Right.
know, he sent you to even stumble upon this story. So I got to look at things like that. I keep sharpening my perspective because I know that he's still in charge.
So Miss Sparkle says you're a beautiful woman. I pray happiness finds you.
Thanks.
There's a lot of support in the comments. I mean, of course, you know, people have their things that they're saying, but I want to show you that there is a lot of support out here from a lot of the women. May
I
God,
really
my
appreciate it.
God, that's not the way to live life for Francyna. It's not. It's really not. I don't wish that on anybody. King World says that he's glad that you're speaking out.
Thank you, King Rods.
Yeah, thank you. Because without
Oh,
you putting
man.
out your video, I wouldn't have seen that, you know. And then I found Raheem, you know, the rabbit hole, and I'm like, okay, so there's a couple people already out here on
Shout
YouTube
out to
talking about it,
Raheem.
right? Yeah. So shout out to those people who introduced me to you, Miss Hardaway. Is there anything that you would like to say, or anything that you would like to um give out? Okay, wait, we got a question that you might be able to answer. Miss Sparkle asks, how can a judge allow this to continue? I don't understand. You might have came in late. Miss Hardaway already explained that. If you want to explain it briefly for Miss Sparkle again.
So the part of the problem is that many of these complaints and motions and so forth and so on, they're filed before different judges, different counties, different municipalities, and there is no unity amongst the judiciary. The other place probably doesn't even know that this thing is going on over here. And even with the case that I'm on, the judges have changed. So the judges don't necessarily, I think we're on a different judge number 3.
This is the third judge, yeah.
Right. So they don't necessarily know the procedural history of what happened before. I mean, they could look at the jacket, but it's not the same as getting the feel. Then someone could probably get the feel of what is going on here if they stayed on the case. However, I'm just going to say the second judge should have gotten the feel, and I'm going to leave it at that. But we have another judge, and that judge is probably going to just try to do the best that he or she can with what's there, not being there from the beginning, is going to follow that, going to look at that rule that talks about how you can vacate a motion, and going to apply those standards because he or she has to, and not really understanding the nuances or the feel or everything that we're talking about right here.
Right.
So it's an uphill battle.
At some point you should really sit down and write a book. For real. This is a testimony to talk about, because you hear about stuff like cases, and then you hear something else and you're like, wait, what? Because this situation right here has that scratch your head, frown your face, and really question what is going on type of effect to it. And you have to actually hear it to understand it. So I thank you, Miss Hardaway, for coming up here, because there was so many questions that a lot of us had, like, okay, how did she get, because when I saw your video, she says, I don't have any kids. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to ask. How did he get to file for support?
I don't know what Miss Evans got something in the mail that I didn't get. So whatever she got, I don't know what that was with the child support and all that whatnot. But
there's a family court, the application where it was requesting my financials, where
I'm not sure that is usually typically what they do for child support.
Right?
Financials,
right?
I don't know,
because
what I ended up getting was a motion asking for certain relief, and some of the relief is a request for monetary compensation.
Okay.
So I don't know how that mixes in with the child. They don't have any children together, so I don't know. I don't know if somebody messed up and sent the wrong form. I don't know.
We're gonna pray that's.
I think when you try to sue somebody in family court is different. I don't think Cassie's being sued in family court. She has her own family.
Right.
Good for her. But I think because we have this existing family court, these are the kind of things you can do when you have an order of protection against someone. You can just do it. It's probably less expensive than going to regular civil court.
If you would have written on the back of a cereal box and submitted it and paid the fee, it probably would have gotten through.
Wow. That's but then again, this is different, because what people don't understand is Jersey is a commonwealth state, correct? Common law state.
I think that's more, when I think of common law, commonwealth, I think of PA. I don't necessarily think of New Jersey, but you might be right. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm like, this is so different. It's like listening to things that go on in a whole nother world. Like me, myself, I'm from New York. So I do understand how certain things work. But I'm also, because I personally have had a restraining order, but I didn't abuse my restraining order. I didn't weaponize it. It was there for what it was supposed to be there. It was at my apartment complex. It was at my job. So places where I was at, they knew if this person shows up, they're not supposed to be here. I didn't do all of this stuff. So to hear, you're a lawyer, you're an attorney. So of course you hear about all of the things that people do when they have these restraining orders to make a person's life a living hell. And it's just like to hear, it's so easy in Jersey.
To list the number of cases where, in my mind, it was not a real domestic violence situation, it was just people pissed off at each other. I have more of those than I have true domestic violence cases, but they still come through, they're still handled, you still got to deal with it. And it's unfortunate that this happened in this situation, but even in those situations, people, they get their order and they let it go. They don't keep doing this like
last Monday. Had it not been for last Monday,
sometimes they never even see the person ever again. If they don't have kids, they just go off into the sunset and it is what it is. This keep coming back to court and having to keep hiring lawyers, having to, I mean, she's able to speak out at this point, but you know, before that, if had it not been for the situation where he's affiliated with this celebrity,
no one would care.
If she came on social media, nobody would have heard her.
No one would care.
Herself.
Nobody
because
cared.
He was going for how long, and nobody picked up on it. Nobody. And when I was looking at your picture, your post, I'm like comparing the two because I have two phones. So I'm looking at your page from one phone, I'm looking at his page from the other phone, and doing a visual comparison. And I'm like, well, her post about this on TikTok stopped here. Meanwhile, his whole page, I mean, from the first onset, it's been about this. And then I'm like, okay, this has been going on for a while and nobody picked up the case. Oh, so now because of this, of course, that one video announcing himself as who he was brought everybody to the page, which caused people to look around, but the story didn't stick. Now it's sticking because people are paying attention to the details.
Yep. That's important. And that's why I appreciate your platform, because you are into the details. You don't just want to say what you want to say. You are asking the questions. You're reading the books. You're looking at the documents. You're looking at the videos. The contradictions. And that's what you have to do. Look at some of those earlier videos when he's talking about breaking her jaw and calling the prosecutor a white
fat pig bitch. I'm sorry, but
it's okay, because when I was listening to this, I'm like, what is this that I'm listening to? Because in one instance, it's like, you know, he says one thing and then it's something else. Like, for example, I broke up with her because of the alleged incident with the daughter. I don't really want to say too much, but you guys already know I just don't want to say too much right this second.
And then it's my mother.
And then it's your mother. He broke up with you because of the mother. So I'm like, how do people not hear the contradictions that happen? Because this gets said over here, then this.
But imagine facing criminal charges. Imagine facing criminal charges with a mind like this. Like, that's the scary part that, you know, I feel like I did survive. But it was no easy feat because nobody really understands, you know, until there's a whole trial, you still have to go through the channels and you still have to follow the rules. You still have to get processed. You still, you know, it's a lot. But yeah, it's definitely appreciate you bringing more light, and really hopeful for the journey that we have ahead.
Well, not final thought, but Francyna, any advice that you would have, and Miss Hardaway, you as well, for someone who may be finding themselves in a situation similar to this, or maybe just like this, and we don't know?
I pray to God that there's no other situation just like this.
Right.
I sincerely pray to God that there's no other situation. You just got to keep fighting, because if you don't, then the person who is keep wanting to keep this up, they'll keep going. They'll say anything. They'll do anything. And you have to, at some point, and even if you don't fight it in the public forum, you still got to, when you go to court, you might be tired and weary, but you still got to answer that complaint. You still got to bring your proofs. If you can get a lawyer, because some of these, like, I think that if a good lawyer would have been at the first hearing, it may not have turned out the way that it turned out. But most people, when they do this domestic violence, the first thing is not to go out and get a lawyer, because you're like, hey, I didn't do anything.
Right.
You know, this is our personal situation. I didn't I didn't go rob a bank, or so let me just go in here and tell my story. That's your instinct. But you know, sometimes you run into a situation and there you are, and the consequences can be dire.
Francyna?
Well, my advice is, if you feel like you're in a relationship where, you know, you're losing a bit of autonomy, and, you know, you're not looking like yourself, you're not feeling like yourself, you can't communicate with people that you love and care about, you know, you just start to feel yourself being isolated, leave as soon as you can. You know, you have to notice these signs, and I notice these signs, but I would say I just felt a little guilty about leaving because I didn't want to abandon. And I will never make that decision again. You know, you got to start with you, and you can't fix anybody else, even if you care about their mom. You can't. So I do take responsibility for that. And, you know, I will never make that decision again. But I guess I just also don't believe that God brings you through anything that you shouldn't have been going through. And I feel like my message is to young women is to still stand tall and be relentless in whatever you do, you know. So this is my fight. I was supposed to, you know, I thought I was going to be, you know, in the Olympics. That's what I was on track for. I've been running track my whole life. I feel like my vision has been derailed. I'm so out of shape right now. However, I do have a great job. I am getting back into my physical shape. I do have a business. I still can empower others. I still have a group of seniors. There are still things that I can do to contribute to my, you know, immediate community, and I'm really thankful for that. So I think as long as you find your space, you can win, you know? So my message is just to stay relentless.
I want to say I love that you said that. I love that you took accountability for your portion of basically without saying it, I stayed too long. I put someone before me. I heard that. I hear the accountability. And I love that because that shows someone working on self. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge that and applaud that. Gold Digger has a good question. She says, can an overall letter with every judge's name on it be written and mailed in hopes that all judges can be aware of each other and see that this man is going from court to court and judge to judge?
I mean, I don't know if
Is
it's
that a legal question, or is that a just a letter of support for Miss Evans? How are we phrasing this? Because
I'm
I can tell
believing
you,
that this is
if it's a legal thing, it's not necessarily going to help because the judges are going to be bound by whatever laws that they think they have to apply to this particular case. If it's more of a supportive type of situation, then of course, you know, those things are useful. I think if people, you know, if people get, when the word is out and the judges see that people care, you know, these judges, they have so many cases that come across their desk. They're
right.
not necessarily like, oh, this one's so egregious, and they don't know about the other thing that happened over there. They're just taking the facts as it's presented in this moment and applying the law. This is what they're
Yep.
supposed to do. But sometimes you get these support organizations. They come to court. I've had cases where there's some people, there's an organization. These are my civil rights cases. People's Organization for Progress in Newark. They actually come to court for you. They do a lot of stuff to help support. And then the judges, you know, they see that. They see that.
Okay. Well, final thoughts for either one of you on this whole situation.
Well, I think I gave my final thoughts. So
Yeah, I'm just thankful. I feel so seen. I just want to thank everybody that took the time to tune in. It really means a lot to me. You know I'm up here smiling, but it took a lot of courage. And just thank you everyone in the live that's been showing love. I can't even see the comments, but thank you, that girl Henny. Thank you to my attorney taking the time out tonight. It means a lot.
Well, uniquely just let you know you got the Henny gang behind you. And I don't know, you haven't had a chance to see them in rare motion, but they step in them comments. Do you hear me? They
Thank you.
don't play. All right. So that's a great question. And I was gonna ask that B more, but you beat me to it. She said, is there any other way that we can help support Francyna?
I mean, you know, feel free to share any of the content that has been out here just to get my story out. I do have a GoFundMe. You know, I'm trying to secure my 14th attorney. If you guys are, you know, even if you just want to consider sharing it, I really appreciate it. And, you know, but my name is Francyna Evins. If you Google me, you'll see his face, but you'll also see my GoFundMe if you scroll a little bit further.
I'm actually attaching it to the description of this video, right? Because I kept saying there's something I forgot to do. There's something I forgot to do.
Yeah.
I'm putting the link down in the description box right now. It's there. Boom. It's
Thank
done.
you.
It's in the description of this video. I will also post the link for your GoFundMe on social media, and you guys just share it up and help get the word out there. I want to thank the both of you for taking the time to come up, because you didn't have to, but you did, and I appreciate it. And anytime you guys want to come back, you want to give an update, whatever, just reach out to me. And I'll gladly have you guys back. But I don't want to hold you guys any longer, because I
Thank you
know,
so much.
you know, Miss Hardaway, I know you busy.
I am, but it was worth coming here. I really appreciate your platform. I've been listening. I mean, my client, she makes fun of me because I don't know much about these things, the social media thing, but I've been listening to yours, and it stands out.
Thank
So I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. So everyone, that's going to do it for this edition of Conversations with Henny. Thank you so much for tapping in and tuning in. You know what I always say, love is always love. And when you rest well. I'll see y'all in the next spill, everybody. Peace,
Thank
y'all.
you, everyone. Bye.